Blah, 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 blah. Welcome to Immediate Reviews, where we see a movie in theaters and review it immediately. We just saw the motherfucking Shining.
We just saw Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Alright, yeah, what they said.
Okay. Alright. So, little background. Peter's never seen this in theaters.
Yes, first time in theaters.
Matt, this is his second time in theaters.
Yes.
He went to a Fathom event screening with me, and then we saw this. And I've seen it 3 times, Fathom, 35mm, and then this for the 4K remaster that they just did. And so you go first, Peter.
Alright, this movie's fucking incredible.
Oh my god, it is.
It's super, super good. And, you know, some people, they don't really enjoy it, you know, but I feel like it's just like one of the pillars of cinema, one of the just greatest movies ever made, and is just, you know, the like pinnacle of cinematography and acting and, you know, soundtrack, like coming together to make something just like somber and fucking horrible and just amazing. And yeah, I absolutely love it. Like the actors do an incredible fucking job. Like every performance is like top notch, and the soundtrack is just like so intense and just droning and just screeching, and it's just in your face, and you know it has just this way about it. You know, it creates tension and fear through, you know, visual representation, and he does a lot of like wide angle shots that just create this like isolated, alone feeling, and the, you know, the fact that they talk about that, like that everything was intentional that they were trying to do, is just incredible. And it doesn't rely on jump scares. I think the biggest jump scares are the time changes when it's just like Tuesday.
Those are jump scares, man. Jump scares have existed for a long time. They just have sucked more recently.
Yeah, it's not.
But they're so well executed.
Yeah, man. It's not just somebody showing up like grabbing somebody's shoulder and being like, oh, I'm not the bad guy. It's just like this long,
I'm not the bad guy.
Like this long scene, just like will draw out and just show, like, you know, this kind of mundane thing, and then it'll just fucking throw a crazy bit of music, black screen, Tuesday, dude, and yeah, it's just like, whoa, like.
I love when he does snap zoom jump scares.
Yes.
They're so awesome. Okay, Matt, what do you think?
On just the movie overall?
Yeah, just the movie itself, just like your general thoughts.
You know, I think that the cinematography is outstanding. I mean, some of those shots, you know, you can tell it's in multiple places, but each place, and you know, including the shots in Colorado with the mountaintops, Mount Hood view,
Mount Hood,
around, you know, up there at the mountains up there, and then the inside of the hotel as well is just phenomenal. All 3 locations are all different, and they just seamlessly blend that together, and I think that it works really well. The visual storytelling is, you know, everywhere in the film, everything is on purpose and it serves a specific function.
Yeah.
I love the movie. I don't particularly enjoy Shelley Duvall's performance or little Danny Torrance.
Oh man, I thoroughly disagree.
Yeah, I disagree.
But you have a different image in your head because you read the book, which we'll get into later. But from just growing up with this movie, like I love him. But continue. Sorry.
I find him comical, but I just I just find him distracting from the overall story.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I love this movie too. It's great. This is like the second Kubrick movie I watched, and it's one of the ones I watched before I knew who he was. And then once I started getting into him and I found out he directed The Shining, it's just like it all made so much sense, and just like it's so much better when you know that. And The Shining's one of those movies too. Anytime I'm talking about Stanley Kubrick and people are like, "Who?" I'm just like, The Shining, and they're like, "Oh, okay, genius." Like, it's yeah, it is. Man, I don't know what to say that you guys haven't. It is just an experience. You experience everything that they're going through, and the camera does a mix of like POV shots. Like, this was the first time I realized that, like, I think some of the shots are like the point of view of the spirits at the Overlook, and like the use of the Steadicam gives it like an ethereal float at times,
especially with that music.
Yeah, the Steadicam as well. This was the or some people say that it's like the first movie that used it. It's not. It's like the second or third, but it's the first movie that used it significantly. My God, there are so many amazing fucking Steadicam shots in this fucking movie, and I will say too, an advantage that I normally always prefer film prints, but an advantage the digital version has is sometimes like film, especially beat up prints, can like get the shakes, and a lot of these scenes it's really important that they're just as stable as possible. And this one, this new restoration, they used image stabilizer definitely, and it's just like it really gives it a whole new experience. It was great.
I gotta add something for cinematography. So a while back, when Lee Ermey passed away, may he rest in peace, me and Dakota went to Portland to watch a copy of Full Metal Jacket in honor of him.
A film print, Full Metal Jacket.
Yes, and at the very end, Leon Vitali, the assistant director of Stanley Kubrick, gave a Q&A and talked about the process of what it was like on the set of The Shining. And yeah, he said that Stanley Kubrick doesn't storyboard. Like, all of the amazing shots that happened in that movie, like, they didn't plan out what anything was going to be. Like, he just showed up on set, and he had this like little telescope like thing that he's like looking through to figure out his frame, and he goes around and maps out the shots like on the spot, like, and that coming from like a film perspective, that's just crazy to me.
No, yeah, and like when they have to track Danny throughout the hall. First of all, you're talking shit on Danny, man. That little kid knew his path, hit his marks. Fucking, he killed it, man. He deserves a stunt check for that shit, man.
Yeah, on that level, definitely.
But yeah, the camera has to track him and make sure to maintain focus and be in the right position, and just like, wow, it is fucking stupendous.
He drifts that thing a couple times.
So yeah, we all think it's a masterpiece. All right, so themes and meaning. I kind of want to go first on this one. So I'm just gonna call out one of the more popular ones, but like, because there's a documentary that talks about it, so I don't want to go into it too much. But basically, like, there's a lot of evidence that this movie is like an allegory for Native American genocide, symbolized through a like dysfunctional nuclear family experiencing like alcoholism and verbal abuse and like violence and stuff like that. There are numerous Native American references throughout the film, constantly. I mean, like, Wendy's wearing clothing. They even, one that I never noticed till today was when they're running towards the hedge maze. She says, last one there has to, oh fuck, I can't remember the exact line. It's like, clean up America or something. That's the fucking commercial with like the like Indian who turns around and like sheds a tear. But yeah, it's all over the movie. And however, the one I also want to talk about is so I never noticed in at the end of the movie, Jack Nicholson's in the portrait, and it says 1921, and it's like, what the fuck? So, I never noticed that it talks about how Grady, it says Grady killed his family in 1970, if I'm not mistaken. During the initial meeting, he said it happened in 1970. So when Jack Nicholson, Jack, he's Jack Nicholson, when he goes back in time,
John Torrance.
when he goes back in time, or as a ghost vision, or whatever you want to call it, is there an official name for it that I don't know about?
What, the trance that he's in?
Yeah.
That's basically the nexus point. He's basically, the things are real, but they're also not real.
Okay.
So it's like a psychic manifestation.
So basically, when he talks to Grady, he's at that party in the 20s. Everyone's got like flapper suits and like, it's clearly the 20s.
Seriously, the astral projected there.
And that's Grady, and he talks to Grady, and like, but Grady killed his family in the 70s. So like, I think that character is actually supposed to possibly be Jack Torrance or something. I don't know. It's so fucking weird and confusing. And if I could choose one movie to have a commentary, I would really love The Shining to have a Kubrick commentary, man. But yeah, what do you think about themes, like, and the mystery of what it all means?
I mean, I think that this movie does a really good job because it doesn't explain what it's trying to get across. It just shows it to you. And you know, I watched this movie when I was younger. I didn't even know if there was a
VHS. What up?
Continue.
Sorry.
I didn't know that it was a Stephen King adaptation. I just thought it was a horror movie. And I feel like that really sets the movie onto its own, stand. Like, it's able to stand on its own as something beyond what, just Stephen King in general. Like, what I originally thought it was this essentially, a mother that was dealing with an abusive husband and trying to raise, a special needs kid. And,
that is an interesting way, yeah.
Trying to, essentially get away from the world, and the father succumbing to his abusive nature and basically going fucking psycho. And everything else can be attributed to, like, his own, kind of psychotic experience that he's having before he decides to kill his family. And, yeah, that's how I looked at it for a long time. And I feel like people who don't care enough to dig into the fact that it's a, Stephen King adaptation, I think can respect it enough as it is. Like, it stands alone. It doesn't need the fact that it has a book behind it. It's amazing in its own right, regardless of what the source material is.
Well said. But what do you think the last shot means?
The last shot means?
What do you think it means, man? What does it evoke in you when you see it?
When he's in the bathroom, he talks to Grady. And yeah, he says that that he's always been there. That he's always been in the and so like it could be that these are just like spirits that exist and are bound to this hotel, and they reincarnate and end up coming back and dying there, and that's why they all seem to like know each other and interact and things like that. But yeah, I like the fact that it's not explained. I like leaving it to discussions like this to decide what you think and what not to think, and endings that just kind of don't answer things and leave you with just not a like what the fuck was that, but just like a what the fuck.
I think it's his second best behind 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, that
in
one.
terms of final shots.
Yeah.
And just evoking what does it all mean.
I'd say Floating Space Baby takes the cake on that one for sure.
Floating Space Baby. It's the Star Child, man. He's saving us from nukes.
Yeah, Floating Space Baby. That's what I said.
So, Mampton, how do you feel about the themes conveyed in the film?
Well, I'd have to say I definitely watched the film before I read the book, and so a lot of these themes that you're talking about, all of those went through my head. The very abstract nature of the film paired with the vagueness of it, it leaves you a lot of unanswered questions, and it's kind of it evokes a sense of curiosity of like what's it all about. But then after reading the book and watching the film, then all the answers that you need, or all the answers that you're not given, you have, and so you kind of understand it a little bit more. And
All
I think
the
it
answers?
adds a depth. Oh, definitely.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like the bathroom scene where you're talking about Grady and how there's this confusion that he's like, no, I don't remember being the caretaker ever. I've always been here. That goes into that last scene where you see that picture of Jack being there in the 1920s. It's because the hotel itself has absorbed them. They're not just them as like a singular being or their soul. They are part of the Overlook because they even mentioned it used to be an Indian burial ground, and it's kind of a spiritual nexus that draws in these people that have psychic links. If you notice throughout the entire movie, Wendy is completely unaffected by anything that's happening supernatural until the very end when it starts to ramp up.
Yep.
And it's because this place, it naturally draws people who have this ability to connect with it. But the problem is that over the years, the types of people that had gone to the Overlook and the things that had happened there, especially the murders, the mafia, fucking shootouts, there's multiple violent deaths that have left their mark on this building, and so it's taken this powerful place and it's perverted it, and so it's very negative. And it's just crazy because there's the individual ghosts like the lady in room 237 and Horace Derwent, who's getting a blowjob from the guy in the dog suit, which all these
Good old Horace
are embellished on, and these are things that may or may not be revisited upon, and let's say movies down the road that have to do with these Stephen King adaptations. And so it's just it's very interesting to see it in two different mediums, and when it comes together, it's a more complete picture, I think.
Okay, nice.
I think the main thing that I got from that was the duality.
Oh, okay, cool. That's very interesting. So I guess we went over a lot of the bullet points. Let's just go over them if there's any specific things we want to add. Any further comments about the directing want to add? Start with you, Peter.
Stanley Kubrick is a god. That's the only comments I have.
Well said. Anton, directing.
I could definitely see that he let the actors kind of go with how they felt that the character should be. You can see it in each person. There's a bit of individualization to the role.
It's interesting. Yeah, I really love all the performances that like he gets out of everyone. Like I think it's such an interesting choice to let Jack Nicholson go so over the top, but I think it's a great way to just, I don't know, show how truly absurd he really is in terms of his actions throughout like his family and stuff. It's almost disrespecting those actions. It's like it's not treating them seriously. It's kind of belittling them. Does that make sense? Sort of like no spoilers, but like with what Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did for the Manson family. Kind of like where it's his ridiculousness belittles his actions as ridiculous. And Shelley Duvall, man, yeah, a lot of people like to give Stanley Kubrick shit because, they got in fights and he had her do like 100 takes and stuff, but it's like, I mean, that's kind of what everybody signed up for. And Malcolm McDowell got his ribs broken. Vincent D'Onofrio got like beaten with soap. Dick Halloran, Scatman Crothers, who played Dick Halloran, had to do like twice as many takes that Shelley Duvall did of him screaming in agony and stuff like that. But, you know, no one ever criticizes Kubrick for that. It's always like, oh, isn't it genius what him and the actors all had to endure? Oh my God, he yelled at Shelley Duvall one time. It's like, I don't know. I'm really sick of it. And yeah, I don't think either of them get enough credit for the collaboration that they did together on this. And
I think Shelley Duvall had one of the best performances in the movie, for sure. Like, her facial expressions and just like the horror that she portrays in her face during the movie, and especially like the bathroom scene, you know, classic. Here's Johnny.
Yes, dude. Oh man, yeah. The whole time I'm staring at her face.
Yeah, it's like she portrays everything perfectly, and definitely deserves more credit than she gets.
And Danny, interestingly enough, sorry to talk with my mouth full, but Stanley Kubrick didn't want Danny to watch the movie. He asked him to wait until he was like 17, like of age. And he made sure to like shelter him from everything. That's the thing. Stanley Kubrick was a hard ass when it came to adults. But like, he treated kids with, like, he was a big softie. That's why he didn't have too many kids in his movies. Writing. I don't know, percentage-wise, how much of the writing would you say is, like, verbatim from the book? Just a quick sum up, how much?
30%.
30%. Okay, that's interesting. I quite love the writing in this movie. And what exposition there is delivered really well and done with, like, I don't know, it's just done with grace. I don't know. The writing's great. You have any comments on it? Either of you?
I think the writing's decent. You know, like I think more along the lines of the actors rather than the writing itself. Like,
yeah,
you know, the actors, what they do with the writing, I feel like is what makes the movie. You know, the writing itself it's not terrible. You know, it definitely gets the job done and says what they need to say. But
I mean, yeah, it's definitely not the dialogue that pushes me emotionally, but like, there are a lot of just like great, just like clever moments from the movie that you remember.
The dialogue that happens is like, it feels like it's meant to happen.
And it feels natural. I don't know, a lot of it. The conversation that Danny and Dick Halloran have when they're sitting at the table and just like holding their hands like that one's amazing. I don't know. There are a lot of good just like extended scenes.
I gotta talk about that scene real quick, man. Like, after seeing the movie, there's gonna be spoilers here, just so you know. Like, when Danny asks him, just like, "Are you scared of anything here?" He's like, "No, I'm not scared of anything. You know, don't you be going into room, 237. And it's just like, when you watch the movie, there's a naked, like, leper lady that, like, makes out with you and then laughs at you while slowly approaching you. And it's just like, I just imagine him just like, I ain't scared of nothing here.
Oh my God, dude.
Just don't go in that room with that fucking, fat leper old granny, and you'll be fine. You ain't got no reason to go in there. You don't want none of that, all right? I already had my fill of that. I ain't scared of it.
Well,
all right,
the thing about that is that Danny's the only one powerful.
Okay, we'll get into book stuff later.
That's why it doesn't make sense, because it's not explained.
It makes sense. It's just funny to like see the look of horror on his face, and then it's like knowing what's in the room. Yeah,
that granny had it going on. All right, that's what I'm saying. She could laugh at me all day.
I think we've talked a fair amount about the acting. Is there anything else you want to add, Matt, Peter?
I mean, I respectfully disagree with. I mean, Shelley Duvall, her acting is okay. It just feels very two-dimensional to me, and her reactions seem kind of delayed. And when she's running with the knife, she just kind of seems to be prancing around. And I understand that, you know, it is what it is, but it just makes me feel like it's more of a caricature of the character that. And I have a different view on it because I read the book and I know what the character is like in that, and so when I see it on the screen, I guess I have a little bit of a bias to it. But I'd say everything's more conveyed with the tone of the scene, with the music and the cinematography and the acting. I think it takes more of a background to those, like you were saying. It kind of, the dialogue that happens is what needs to happen, and not much more. Because it's the story is just as much visual as it is verbal.
I mean, but there are scenes like when Shelley Duvall's talking to the therapist and like telling about what happened to Danny and stuff. She's so just genuine, just like average mother trying to defend like her husband's actions, and just like, you know, she knows it's wrong, but she knows he's gonna do better, and she believes in him. And I don't know, I just like I honestly think her performance is just really genuine. Like, Danny is over the top at times, and Jack Nicholson's for sure over the top. But like, I don't think Shelley Duvall's ever over the top, even when she's like panicking and stuff. I mean, that's what happens to people when they're freaking out like that. And like, Shelley Duvall is just like, she's genuine the whole time. There's only one scene I laugh at her though, when she throws down the knife. Like, like triumphantly throws down the knife. That is the one scene where I laugh at her.
I laughed at her when she tries to like
stab the knob,
hack the door open with
that
fucking chef's knife.
That one is really
that'll get you there.
Okay.
Oh, what happened?
The sound design, man. Fuck. The music, everything.
Yeah, it's masterclass.
It's
like,
I love that the music is like, it's very synthy 80s, like a lot of horror movies back then, but it's also got a timeless quality that just like, I don't know, it's just
lots of orchestra.
Yeah, the orchestra helps with its timelessness, but it's it's one of the best horror soundtracks ever, and just all the voices, just and shit like that, and then the pizzicatos, all the fucking
That's that good shit.
Music, good. I like.
Nothing else.
That's good music.
This is good music. Set design, costumes, theater. All right. Well, I guess before Matt talks about more about the book and we talk about Dr. Sleep. Anything else we want to say about the movie before we move on? About the movie, The Shinnin'.
I just like to say that it's a different, in the words that Stephen King has used, it's just a different story about the same people. His story is, it's just different mediums that tell different stories. And I think they should be enjoyed individually and, in their entirety.
I can read the book and watch the movie at the same damn time if I want to.
That's not going to make sense.
No, I mean, like, literally read the book while watching the movie. I'm just being stupid. Okay. Yeah, Kubrick's a god. Is it my all-time favorite Kubrick movie? It's probably not even top 3, but it's like upper middle, I think, for me. Where would you guys rank it for Kubrick films?
Springing a rank on me.
Like, I'd put it like maybe 4 or 5 if I'm estimating in my head. Like 2001, Barry Lyndon, Clockwork Orange, and then this.
Yeah, I'd say probably like top 3 for me.
Yeah.
Full Metal Jacket? Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to say top 3 or 4.
Hell yeah. All right, so Matt, What thoughts?
Oh, how about
what other extended thoughts do you have?
is there any questions that you guys had, like about something that could be explained?
Questions I had during it.
When he's when he's talking to all the phantoms in the bar, and he drinks the alcohol, is he actually getting drunk, or is it like all in his head?
It's in his head, but he is getting drunk.
So both.
Because he's getting the mental effects.
The gazebo effect.
The significance of him drinking the alcohol is what it is. Because he's going there, he's sitting there, and he knows that there's nothing there. But then he looks up and he sees the bartender, and the bartender himself is not any of the souls that are trapped in this place. It is the actual hotel that he's talking to. And as soon as he takes that first drink, then he has, like you said, he said he would sell his soul. He invites the hotel into him, and so from that point on, throughout the rest of the movie, he is possessed by the hotel. And so those actions where you see him, where he's just like yelling and screaming and acting differently, acting like he doesn't
at
give
the
a
end,
fuck. Yeah, just
when he's like rah rah rah.
Yeah, that's like he's dying.
That was one thing I was curious about, if that was from the book.
Yeah, he's technically possessed by the hotel. That's the only way that it could get him to actually try to kill his family.
And what's the purpose of, like, why does the hotel need the person to kill their family?
It's a way it can, if they die there, then it gets their souls. But specifically Danny, since he's such a powerful telepath, it's like he's that scene with him and Scott Crothers, when he's like talking to him, and like at first he's like trying to talk to him, and then the kid starts asking him questions. It's because he's like overpowering his mind.
I mean, he figures out how to like what he's afraid of.
He's super. Danny Torrance is super powerful. That's the reason why the hotel wants him, because it can dramatically increase its power by gaining Danny's soul, basically.
So who's Tony?
Tony is, spoiler alert if you've never read the book, Tony is Danny from the future.
Tony's Danny from the future? That's in The Shining or Doctor Sleep?
That's in The Shining.
Tony is Danny from the future.
Like a 13-year-old
So he
Danny.
changes his name?
It's the fucking butterfly effect.
There's actually, they talk about it in the book where they go and they send him to a doctor, and they talk to the doctor. He's like, Tony is Danny, right? And both of the parents already know. They're like, yeah, it's his imaginary friend. It was like, well, he didn't choose a name like Zeke or Hezekiah or whatever. I don't remember what they say, but he specifically names him Tony because his name is Danny. It sounds very similar. And basically, the movie would make a lot more sense if there were flashbacks, like to earlier times in their history. I think that a little bit more character development that way would improve the film, but that's not the type of film it is. So, but there's many instances where Tony intervenes and keeps things from Danny, or shows things to Danny to protect him, because obviously his father is being corrupted by the Overlook, and his mother is emotionally distraught and can't really help him with this. And so the only person who can help him is himself. It just happens to be an older version of himself that's like connecting with him somehow. It's a part of why Danny is so special. He has multiple different types of powers, like telepathy. I'm sure he has some level of telekinesis. He has some form of precognition. If you see in the beginning of the movie where he's talking to Tony in the bathroom, he's like, "Why don't you want to go to the hotel?" He goes, "Yeah, you don't want out."
Right.
And then he does tell him, because he's already lived through it. He's able to share some of that information with Danny.
Share his own experiences with himself.
It gets super deep into it. That's fucking crazy.
That's some Doctor Who shit.
Yeah.
That's some Prisoner of Azkaban shit.
And the reason why they call the movie Dr. Sleep is because he was called Doc as a kid. So it's just kind of a continuation of that.
So, Dr. Sleep.
How much sleep will
Yeah.
Doctor sleep?
6 to 8 hours, or I'm
It's the long sleep.
it's it's interesting. While I'm a massive fan of like the Kubrick version to the point where I almost don't want to read the book, like just because I don't want to find too much out. I wish the movie was following the book and used flashbacks to kind of fill in the gaps
I'm sure they'll use some.
of what's different.
Too bad Scantman Crothers won't be around to reprise his role as Dick Halloran.
Yeah, he died a long ass time ago.
And it still fits.
I mean, in The Shining, he's like in his 60s in that movie.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I wish they were following Doctor Sleep movie was following the Shining book, and used flashbacks to fill in the gaps. Yeah, I wish it was that, but it's not. It's a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's movie, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, Stephen King signed off on it, so
He liked it. Peter,
it's money.
Doctor Sleep, did this movie make you think more or less about it?
I mean, I have no idea what Doctor Sleep's about, so I'm just like, can Aaron McGregor like make a bad movie? Like, really?
Are you asking him to?
I'm asking if it's possible.
The
We're
Island.
gonna find out.
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, all masterpieces. All right, don't give me that shit.
All right, and there were no trailers except for Doctor Sleep, so I guess that was our trailer section.
That's our trailer section. Yeah.
All right, well,
Can't wait for the next one.
The Shining's awesome. Is this our first positive review? I don't know.
No, well, I mean, it depends on when this goes up.
It might be.
Stay tuned.
Bye, guys.